you cannot change what people think about your work, but you can change how you approach it. So your work could be a spectacle for other people, but your work could be very big, could be very meaningful to you. So same, social media, your social media account could be a spectacle of other people, but your social media could also be very something meaningful to you. It's like a performance thing that, there's different aspects of it that we have to navigate. And so, yeah, I just want people to live with that social media platform is not an evil thing. I mean, people use it for some egoistic and selfish purpose, but if you approach this the right way, you can learn a lot about yourself and your work.
Knobloch's Dance presents Dance Behind the Screen, Process Production and Social Media. Hey knowers, welcome to our podcast. We are Knobloch's Dance, a social media-based company. We strive to say no to the box. We connect interdisciplinary art, technology, and artists to re-envision the process of art making and sharing.
Hello, this is Marthea, your host of today's episode of Dance Behind the Screen podcast. We are on a Skype call with Dat Nguyen of MotionVivid. Nguyen shakes things up nicely, commanding even those audience members who think they are progressive and enlightened sufficiently to realize that many artists might prefer playing it safe in Utah's peculiar culture of sanctioned perfectionism, according to the Utah Review. Dat Nguyen, a native from Vietnam, is a choreographer, photographer, filmmaker, and visual artist currently based in Salt Lake City, Utah. He received his BFA degree in dance at Sam Houston State University, which is where we met. Dat is pursuing an MFA degree in modern dance with a screen dance certificate at the University of Utah. As a choreographer, Dat employs collage as a way to tell his story and heighten the somatic experiences, understanding of his complex identity. As a visual artist, Dat loves exploring the different media technologies and their often intangible relationship with dance. This allows him to expand his artistic landscapes and invigorate his approaches to performance. He founded MotionVivid in 2014 as a dance multimedia company to further his research and broaden his artistic practice to local communities that he is serving. His theatrical works and collaborations have been presented at multiple venues and festivals around the country, including 12 Minute Max, Bailando International Dance Festival, Mudson, and the Great Salt Lake Fringe Festival, to name a few. His photography credits include working with the notable dance companies and university dance programs such as Repertory Dance Theater, Keith Johnson Dancers, Myriad Dance Company, the B-Boy Federation, Nicolay Dancework, the University of Utah, Brigham Young University, and Utah Valley University. His photos have been seen in major publications, including Salt Lake City Weekly, Slug Magazine, Love Dance More, the Utah Review, Front Row Reviewers Utah, and Photo Vogue by Vogue Italia. Currently, Dat focuses his research on performances and its relationship to the spectacle, a theory developed by French philosopher Guy Debord that tackles inequality and injustice in terms of mass media, entertainment, art, and capitalist economy. I'm so excited to talk with you. Dat, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Marthea, for an in-depth introduction. I'm excited for our conversation today, too.
Yes, me too. It's pretty cool how we went to Sam Houston State University together, and now we get to reconnect and share our conversations with the Dance Behind the Screen podcast listeners.
Yeah, like how many years has it been? I think it's like 5 years. Is it 4 or 5 years?
Is it? Oh my gosh. Yeah, at least 4 years. That's so crazy. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So a lot's changed since we last saw each other in person, but thanks to social media, we'll be able to stay connected. But for our audience, how would you describe your current career?
So I started dancing at the age of 20 when I moved to the United States. So all of my dance training has a westernized approach, an Americanized approach, and I never had any dance training in Vietnam before. And I started dancing because I was cast in West Side Story. back in the day when I was a theater major, and that's how I started dancing. So once I did that show, I realized that this is what I want to do. So I transferred to Sam Houston to get my dance degree. Um, so that's my background, and for now, I'm trying to get my master degree in dance.
Mm-hmm.
And during grad school, I started to develop more professional work like evening length shows and cultivate my own repertoire that I can perform in different venues and different dancers. I think for me, it's very much a freelance career for me right now at the moment, trying to figure
Mm-hmm.
out where to apply, where to perform. And yeah, so
I,
yeah,
I think it's fascinating to hear that you only started dancing at 20. I guess I never really realized that when we were at Sam Houston. So could you tell us more about why you started MotionVivid? Because that seems to be kind of like a holding place for all of these different hats that you wear.
yeah. So I started MotionVivid because I want a brand name to associate with all my artwork. So,
Mm-hmm.
as like I practice choreography, I practice photography, I practice videography. And so I just want, like they all connected to something.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people when they start building the brand name, they usually use their actual name, like
Mm-hmm.
John Doe or something like that. But I didn't want to use my real name, Dat Nguyen. Not because I didn't love my name, I love my name, but in Vietnam, if you look it up, like Google would say, like statistically, 40% of Vietnamese people have the last name Nguyen, and that is also a very common first name too. So I just didn't want to call my brand name is like that Nguyen Dance Work
Mm-hmm.
or that Dance Theater. So yeah, like I build motion with this, so I have like something to anchor to. So when they say choreo by Motion Vivid, they know what it is. Photo by Motion Vivid, I know what it is, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
And could you talk more about how did you come up with the name MotionVivid? Because I feel like just the name itself really speaks to all the things that you do in terms of filmmaking, photography, choreographing, performing. So yeah, how did you come up with that name?
Um, it's a long process actually. So I try to come up with something also unique,
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember like what other alternative I have, but I think that eventually I come to this name because I not a lot of people use it, and so yeah, motion is like speak for movement, which is
Mm-hmm.
dancing and choreographing, and vivid is like kind of like speak to like the visual aesthetic of it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at first the name was two separate words, but as I learned about business and because motion and vivid is kind of like a general word. So about 2 or 3 years ago, I finally figured out that like if you want to people to search for you and be able to find you, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
easier to make it more like one word because then Google don't just pop up results for motion and video separately, but because
Um,
yeah, so that's one of the business trip that I learned about building brand name. So yeah, because like motion is very general and vivid is general, like if you look at motion
right.
and vivid by themselves, they pop up all kinds of things. But if you look at motion vivid as a word, then it's pop up my word.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great tip too for our listeners if they're looking to start their own brand name or company or something like that. That it can be really powerful too.
You are listening to Navbox Dance.
Because I know like the definition of vivid is producing powerful feelings or strong, clear images in the mind. So I wonder if perhaps it might still serve you, just it not in the original intention, maybe for the name.
I like that. Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, to shift a little bit, could you tell us about your process of creating content for social media? So, I guess, yeah, as a photographer, especially, you have an advantage to some of us who only work as dancers or choreographers. So, what is the process like for you? How do you decide what pictures to post and how to caption them?
So this is a very interesting question. So the short answer is my process is all over the place. So yeah, I don't have a strategy like what's his name? Jamie Benson in your episode 2.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
like when I listen to it, I feel like Jamie Benson have a very clear strategic way of doing it. But for me, it's like I wake up and okay, today what picture do I feel like posting? So it's very different from me.
But after you do wake up and decide to post, I guess even in the moment, how do you decide that picture? It just speaks to you, or is there more of a process to it than that?
I think when I look at the picture, yeah, I decide on whether it makes me feel something at the moment, and it's like a piece of artwork, some days you are able to resonate with a piece of artwork more than other days. And so that's why I didn't like have a plan out which picture to post which day, but I just wait for it, wait on the day off and post it. But back to your question of like because I'm a photographer and I'm also creating my own work. So sometimes I am able to take photo of my own work, which is very fortunate because I have the control of how to present the work,
Yeah, how to capture that right shot that you want as the choreographer.
Yeah, so indeed, like I feel like I'm very lucky to have that because sometimes I think that my choreography can be all over the place. Sometimes it's grotesque and sometimes it's very dynamic and beautiful. But with the camera, I can capture them and somehow present them in a certain aesthetic that the grotesque work and the beautiful work juxtaposed side to side. You can see it being created by a same. You can have the feeling that they are being created by the same person, I guess.
Yeah, and I feel like that's true. I've watched some only through video, of course, but some videos of your work, and which congratulations, it's very lovely. And then the images, and it's like you can tell that you are part of both of those mediums, whether it be the photography or the choreography. So that's really interesting to see how your aesthetic is able to have a through line through multiple disciplines. Is that something that you think are you aware of that in how you're approaching the different mediums of work, or what is that process like? Is it similar for photography and choreography versus film?
Yes, I think yes. So I feel like during grad school, I did a lot of like self-reflection, and I feel like my choreography is almost like always about death and and how we relate to that and what tactic we use to negotiate with it. And so I also, and I do photography by myself. I don't have like go to grad school for photography, so nobody really question my work or push me really far with my photography. But I feel like reflecting on my dance photography, I feel like it's in a similar kind of thinking that I want to capture this moment because it is precious. Because after the performance, the dance may never be performed again. So that's my thought. Like capture movement is like a weapon against death. But at the same time, I didn't want to say that when I go to take photo, I'm going to war against death. I feel like when I took photo of all the performances, I try to put myself and relate to the audience. So it's almost feel like a contact improv, except So like really, really open your heart and eyes to see not just what the dancer on stage is doing, but to also see how they are feeling, and
so like partnering with the the performer?
Yes. So one of the thing I get commented on a lot is when you see me photographing a dress rehearsal, I'm always on my feet. I'm always moving left and right, forward and backward with the dancer, trying to capture them. I don't sit in one spot. I don't have a zoom lens to allow me to sit in one spot to, because I feel like sitting is just so stagnant. I feel like on my feet,
Mm-hmm.
I am have a way to relate to my dancer. So this feeling of wanting to be with them, is a strategy that I deal with in a way, deal with death, yeah.
And that's very interesting. Is that the same approach you think you have when you're making dance films?
Uh, so dance film, I have been taking a hiatus for 1 or 2 years now, so I wouldn't like comment on it or not.
Okay.
But I feel like it would probably similar to something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I want to dig into your research, and your use what I read about in your bio, your research on performance focus that's really inspired by Guy Debord, and I want to talk about the influence of his book, The Society of the Spectacle, and performance in relationship to the spectacle. But first off, I was hoping that you could briefly explain some of Debord's theories for our audience.
Um, so Guy Debord, he's a Marxist. And you know how Karl Marx predicts that one of the Karl Marx prophecy that eventually capitalism going to fail because of the class struggle, and then it's going to lead the way to socialism and communism. But throughout his life, and a lot of other philosophers also trying to do that, like the Frankfurt School and other philosophers, like they obviously see that like Marx prophecy did never came true, and capitalism is thriving and they are stronger than ever, and so they are trying to explain this phenomenon. So Guy Debord come up with the theory of the spectacle, which is the thing that capitalism produced to keep us in chain, to keep us entertained, and forgot about injustice and inequality. So, for example, TV, Hollywood movie, music, dance, theater, art, those are the things that capitalism are able to produce to keep the working class, the struggling working class to be happy. So, for example, you might go to work and you experience sexism, racism, you experience unequal pay, you're not getting paid enough, you feel like you overwork yourself. But at the end of the day, you go home and you have this iPhone, you have entertainment to access to, and you just thought, it's a bad day and you just entertain yourself. And the next day you go up and you repeat it, doing the same thing. And so his theory is that the spectacle is being produced to put people to sleep. And because they are sleeping, they cannot revolt against capitalists. So, the notion of like being woke nowadays has to do with sleep and woke, yeah.
Right. So the New York Times wrote an article about, and thank you for that that lovely description. I think that will be really informative for our audience. But I read an article by the New York Times entitled "Trump and the Society of the Spectacle," and it really discussed the relationship of politics and mass media. And so my question for you is, as an artist, what do you think the correlation is between art making and social media, revolving around this idea of society of the spectacle?
That's a tough question. So I guess I can start with one of my answers to the research. So when I read about this theory, so I was on my way searching for like an antidote to the spectacle. So I was talking.
Wait, can I pause you there? Actually, could you define spectacle for our audience? How you're using spectacle?
So spectacle essentially is something that fills the void in someone's heart, and thus this filling of the void reconciled with death at death is the ultimate and the most profound answer for what we do. So yes, so I think that because of my relationship with death, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like death is always looming on the horizon, and because of that, it's always create like this void in me. And so for me, spectacle is something that I think feeling this void in me. It's like a brief moment of escape from death, or a brief moment of defying death. So like let's say I go to a movie, then the movie make me forget about dying, and I just focus on the movie, or the movie make me, like with some like special Hollywood effect, like I would say, like the Infinity War, like the Avenger armor movie, the
Yeah.
superhero movie, where all this idea about this human is like defying death. So yeah, I look to that as like I would consider that a spectacle for me. So
Okay.
yeah, it is essentially just fill the void in someone's heart in relationship to death.
And I
And
think that'll be helpful for our audience to understand. So to circle back, so as an artist, what do you think the correlation between art making and social media is with this
yes,
idea of spectacle?
so I would actually investigate that idea with my research. So for my research question was actually how can I make a dance piece that is not a spectacle at all? So I on this quest to, I use a lot of different tactics, and, some of them
Can
have
you give
shock
us some
value.
examples? Yeah.
So some of the thing I was talking with my dancer during the process is that what if we create a fake situation? Let's say people showing up to our concert to about to watch our dance, and we have like an actor or two, create a scene outside in the lobby, and to see how many people react to it. So let's say someone like bullying someone, or like arguing with someone. It's like the classic MTV like boiling point when you like annoy someone until they pop. So one of the tactics we talked about, we didn't use it because I feel like in the end of the day, so this is the answer that I finally arrived at after a long time of researching this, is that you cannot control the spectacle. The spectacle is a spectacle not because of your intent, but this is because of other people's relationship to them. So I could say that like I'm creating this piece. This is not a spectacle. It's supposed to wake you up. It's supposed to talk about inequality, injustice. But a few years from now, somebody could take my dance, my work, and because of my idea, they turn it into something profitable. And this is a lot of happened with artists in the past. Some artists in the past try to create this grotesque painting, grotesque drawing, grotesque sculpture because they don't want it to be being sold to the elitists. They want their work to be accessible for the mass population. Pop culture, like Andy Warhol creating this artwork for not to be elitist, but to be accessible by the general society. But
Right.
now, of course, his work being sold for like million or billion of dollars, so it's become a spectacle. So regardless of your intention, your work will become a spectacle depend on how your audience feel it. Because back to the definition, spectacle is something that feel the void in your heart. What if I say that I creating this type of work to not feeling the void in someone's heart, but at the end of the day, it's up to them to decide whether my work speaks to them and feel the void in their heart. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. So do you think that through social media, do you think social media is a spectacle or a platform for spectacle?
it can be both. It can be both at the same time. So I
Can you
feel
unpack
like
that for us?
yes. So in terms of social media, so first thing, social media is a spectacle because I think that as a consumer of social media, I feel like I keep looking on Instagram and Facebook for something that just like feel like this emptiness in my heart. But at the same time, it can be practiced to as a reflection tool, meaning that So this is how I think social media can inform and affect your art making. That sometimes I use social media and I post this picture of myself so that like later I can reflect on the decision of why I'm using this picture. So what I mean is, sorry to be more clarified. So let's take an example. So people often say that so on social media people are not being their authentic self. They put on a mask, right?
Uh-huh.
The best representation of themselves on social media so that other people can consume. Yes, I totally agree that we put on a mask. Every one of us do. Every one of us does, including me. That I put on this mask of my best self for social media. But the one thing that I think that could be understand further is I believe that as a mask, we have access to multiple of them, meaning
Mm-hmm.
that are the best masks laying around you. The choices you make also reflect on your desire. So as a person, I have a lot of best quality. I think I'm a good painter, a good drawer. I love my pet. I feel like I have my best life with my pet.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mask I could put on social media. I'm a good cook. I could put on that mask. So
Mm-hmm.
um, so the mask that you choose to put on reflect on who you are and what is your desire. Even if I'm a dancer and I put on social media like a picture of only my extension, then what does that say to me as a person? Versus like if I'm a dancer and I'm only put on social media a picture of my performance only, then what does it say to me as a dancer? So these best masks that we create is actually can be used to reflect on who we are as a person. We don't have to say that, oh, because it's my mask and we choose to ignore it.
Don't forget to say no to the box.
So do you think that social media is a tool for, I guess, understanding oneself and bettering oneself?
Yes, so I definitely advocate for it if you don't use social media that often, because obviously some people use social media as a spectacle platform.
Mm-hmm.
But um, like for example, I was talking to one of my friends and she doesn't post on social media enough. And we've been having this conversation. What if you post on there and take a moment to reflect? You get to know yourself better. It's like putting on your website and then you have to articulate on the website about yourself. So like this process can be therapeutic almost. Yeah, so I would advocate for artists out there who feel like they don't need to use social media to reconsider this option that you can use it to not only market your work, but also to reflect on yourself as an artist and as a person. Yeah.
Yeah, and too, because you're able to connect with other people, which might also support that reflection process. So I want to shift a little bit, Dat. So I was hoping you could describe for our audience your visual journals. It seems really cool. There's access to them on Dad's website. So could you talk about what those are and your process for journaling?
Yes. So if you could imagine, it's like a block cap thing, but I didn't want it to call it blog because I feel like if I call it like that, then it's become a blog, and then people expect me to put on content regularly with a certain theme topic,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to put myself under the pressure. But essentially, my visual journal is just a place when I casually show my photo work, usually of a dance piece that I took, and I actually usually accompany this photo with a like a short story to accompany it. So it doesn't just turn into like an album. So I think in the spectacle culture or like social media, you could easily put like a ton of photo on Instagram and people just scrolling through mindlessly. But I feel like visual journal for me is a way that I can connect with audience
Mm-hmm.
with my thought and my photo. So yeah, sometimes I took photo of a piece and there's like 50 picture and you can, dump that on Instagram. But at the same time, like if you create like an album of 50 pictures, then, people just flip through it mindlessly.
And it can be overwhelming too.
Yeah, but if I provide some fun description, then it's become a different experience. And I also try to be very careful because I don't want to turn myself into a reviewer of the dance piece because that's not my role here. So like usually my process is like when I go into capturing a piece, I try to notice like the venue, the atmosphere, the dancer energy, all the nice thing that I can put on my blog and how it makes me feel.
So, Dad, what do you think is the most important task when it comes to managing your social media, whether it be your Instagram, your Facebook, Snapchat, Pinterest? What do you think is the most important task?
I think efficiency, because right now I don't want to spend too much time on social media.
So, can you define what efficiency looks like for you?
So I just have this app. It's called, I believe it's called Ifttt. Let me actually look it up. Yes, it's called Ifttt. That is allow you to, let's say you post one post on Instagram and it's automatically update your post on Facebook, with Twitter, on Pinterest, on all these platforms that you can connect to. So one post and then just do the rest of it versus like I'm trying to make like 5 posts a day, one on Facebook, one on Twitter, one on Instagram. So I'm trying to make it more efficient,
That's a great recommendation for our audience. So could you talk to us more about how you use Pinterest as a social media platform and perhaps any advice you might have for those who are interested in using Pinterest more?
I have to be honest, I'm not a Pinterest user, but I do have an account on Pinterest, and I'm telling you why. It's because that I want MotionVivid to have presence across these social media platform, so that like in the future, if I want to copyright my brand name, then I have evidence that I have owned this influence, that my brand name has this influence across the platform. So I'm telling you this story because my MotionVivid Twitter name now is MotionVivid, right? Back in the day, it wasn't, because when I met Twitter, and then I realized that somebody had already claimed the name MotionVivid.
Oh no!
And I was like, oh no! And then I go to look at the Twitter, and it's funny because they were advertising for some clothing brand, and it's totally not MotionVivid at all. And but lucky for me, they stopped selling the clothes, and for some reason their business closed, and so I was able to negotiate with them with a small price to obtain the name MotionVivid. And so it is important, if you think about trademarking or copywriting your work, that you kind of have this consistency across social media. Because if I try to trademark or copyright MotionVivid, and on Twitter somebody already claimed it, and on Pinterest somebody claim it, and Facebook somebody else claim it, then I might not have a legitimate claim to this name or my brand name to be able to copyright it. So that's what my process thinking about it. So
so I appreciate you sharing that story for our audience, especially those of you who are listening who are interested in, again, creating your own company or something like that. That's important to know in terms of trademarking and copywriting, to jump on getting your name across disciplines. So to move forward a little bit, Dat, I'm curious if you have any advice for those who want to capture really virtuosic dance images, because you spoke to it a little bit earlier about this idea of moving with the performers. So I guess I could rephrase the question. What advice do you have for those of us who are interested in capturing pictures of our dance to share on our own personal social media platforms?
Yes. So if you are a photographer and taking photo of other people's piece, that you might, that it might be the first time you see it, then I advise that you staying very present, almost like have a somatic warm up with yourself and tune into your body and just let go of expectation. And with your camera, just to really be with with the dancer. Um, Look at them, but also see their soul. See, feel the emotion, listening to the music, and move with them. So it does. So the process of capturing photo can be more proactive, but it
Mm.
doesn't have to be chaotic, because sometimes when I say proactive, some people might interpret, oh my God, I need to be like alert, like 200%. Actually, sometimes it's 80%. Sometimes you just like allow yourself to calm, and sometimes you will find yourself missing a great moment, but don't how do you say don't make yourself feel bad for missing the moment, because there will be
Mm-hmm.
other moment to come. And for me, capturing virtuosic movement actually very easy, but capturing the soul of the performance is what I want, other photographer to see, because I think a lot of my favorite dance photographs is something that like in the between, that doesn't show that this dancer have a high leg or amazing arch back bend, or like how high they took off the ground, but just this moment when they feeling the dance, and you can tell by the energy from their eyes and their face in the picture that there is like massive energy and feeling
Mm.
in it. And I think that's make a powerful photograph. um, so if you are a photographer trying to take picture of your own work, try to also identify the moment when you connect with the work more, not the step. Because I feel like as a choreographer, we can ask dancer to come up with some amazing trick, but if you take photo of them, maybe allow themselves to go into a somatic experience. And this is
Mm.
what I usually do when I do a studio photo shoot on my own. That I hire dancers to make my portfolio. That I would lay down on the ground, do this somatic warm up, sing into the ground, preparing this like meditative music, 30 minutes with them before I shoot them, and then they will be able to feel it.
How do you think social media has influenced your career?
For example, my thesis work, when I was dealing with a spectacle, I had this idea I wanted to play, but it didn't come to fruition because due to technical reason and some legal reason. So I was going to make a dance via Instagram Live.
Mm.
Yeah, so I thinking that instead of showing a dance in the theater, I was thinking, what if my dancer is like dancing outside in the yard, and then we
Mm-hmm.
have the Instagram Live, and then all these people in the theater, they can open their cell phone and tune into this account to see our dance. And yeah, I think the idea was first very intriguing, and a lot of people loved it, but it didn't come to fruition because I feel like the theater doesn't have a strong Wi-Fi network. And if
Mm.
we have like 100 people trying to access this, it could be a problem. And then we were not sure how like how to legally navigate it, because we were also afraid that if somebody got a bug in the cell phone, or like got some sort of virus, that they could potentially blame us, because like we don't have like a contract established.
Mm.
Uh, so
Oh, those are interesting points that I haven't thought of before. So hopefully that can be some insight too for our audience.
yeah, but I love this idea, and I think I will do it sometime soon, because I totally love it. Because
Mm-hmm.
there was a point when we experienced with it, and two people opened their cell phone and tuned into my account, but because like their network behaves differently, so they are dissonant. So like let's say like in the dance, I would say something, "Hello, my name is Dat Nguyen," and then in their cell phone, like the the first person cell phone maybe delay 5 seconds, and the second cell phone,
The lagging.
yeah, so there this dissonance and layering is very interesting. So yeah, so that definitely affect affect how I think about my art making, but also like it's also affect me somatically. What I mean by that is I want to go back to, when you introduced me in my bio and it said that like, I use collage as a tool to investigate my experience. So what does I mean by that? I feel like social media and spectacle, and we live in the world full of social media and spectacle, and we are being bombarded with so many things at the same time. So, one moment it could be about some, you know, some bad
Like,
news, like mass shooting, and then like later, so like Facebook told you that like, oh, your best friend birthday is today, and and you go home, you watch a movie, and you this horror movie.
This like overstimulation.
Yes, we are being overstimulated, and all this feeling, all this sensation that we have can exist at the same time. And that is the consequence that we as contemporary human beings have to suffer because of the spectacle and the social media culture. So I feel like collage is a way to reflect that, because when I make my dance nowadays, I use collage because it sticks together different ideas that on the surface may not have may not related to each other. So for example, I'm talking my latest show, Will the Ship Should Be Clean? And so in the show, these are the section that we have. We have like a 5 minute walking section, like a very long walking section in synchronization. We have a section we dance to the song Ave Maria. We have the section where there's a fake bow. We have a section where we like in our underwear doing something very risque. And so like that's my process of collage and putting these different ideas together and using juxtaposition and repetition to make meaning. And so like the collage is reflecting social media, because you could go in something like risque and arousing to something very sad, something or like going to something like monotone and feeling nothing. And so I think
just with the swipe of a finger.
Yes, yes, and sorry, I intentionally play with abrupt transition because like with social media, like spectacle, the news could hit you abruptly. You might enjoying a beautiful day outside, and then bam, on social media, like it's gonna say like a mass shooting happened at the school, and then it's like very abrupt. So I feel like in Western art education, I feel like most of us are being taught to make transition smooth, because that's something that classical art into, like smooth transition. But I feel like in to reflect like the modern mentality, we need the abrupt transition, just like bam, 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 and allow the audience to reflect on this abrupt transition. It's a very powerful tool, and also using like juxtaposition. So I told you I already have like risque section and Ave Maria section. So, but in the show I put the Ave Maria section after the fake bow. If you think about if I put Ave Maria section after the risque bow, it's gonna have a different effect. But if I put after the fake bow, it have a different effect. So that is also like what my research with the performance is about, like how. So it's not just putting out these spectacle feet, but juxtaposing and repeat them to make meaning.
And crafting them to make a specific type of meaning to reflect what you're doing.
You are listening to Nowbox Dance.
Could you talk a bit about the Queer Spectra Arts Festival, what it is, why you created it? Basically, I've seen you sharing this all over social media, and this seems to be something really exciting and something that's much needed. So I was hoping you could talk a little bit about that for our audience.
Yeah, so so I and three other friends are putting this together, this festival called Queer Spectra, and basically it is dedicated to showcasing art from multiple LGBTQIA plus perspectives. And so we try to present a diverse area of voices, background, experiences, culture, and I guess the mission is to celebrate queer expression as well to challenge and contribute to the understanding of queer discourse, conversation around queerness. Because to be honest with you, like Salt Lake City have a very diverse queer art scene, and most of them are underground, but they are very diverse. But I think that I want to make this Queer Spectral Art Festival not to, to saturate the scene already, but I want to bring in the conversation. I think conversation is how I differentiate queer spectra from other queer art performance in Salt Lake City, because I feel like there's something need to be said and discussed about the form, about how an artist make art, how they approach it, and how this conversation we have with the artist can transcend our understanding of queer art. And so I think conversation is important versus like just going to a show and see something that obviously queer, but they never talk about it, And so, I was just looking at the market and see whether something is missing, and I try to feel this with the festival. So, like let's say if the Salt Lake City dance scene is already like saturated with festival that is all about the conversation, then I may create a festival that is all about expression and no conversation.
Right.
I'm an advocate for both, to be able to feel something without verbalizing it, and also be able to verbalize what you feel, so that like these things back and forth, they influence each other and enrich our understanding.
So I think that's really exciting that you all are creating a space for this conversation that needs to be had. And I know we would love to have you back on, or other people associated with the Queer Spectral Arts Festival, because I'm sure that our audience would be curious what some of those conversations look like, sound like, because I think it would be something very interesting to talk about and bring light to, as you already mentioned.
In the media, I feel like a lot of people talk about how bad social media is, but I feel like if you approach it in the right way, you can get to know yourself better. Just like the performance, I think maybe I should maybe like finish the conversation with performance. So after I find out that there's no way I could make a dance that is anti-spectacle, so then what do I do? So I feel like I had to go back into this, making this conventional dance, and it's actually turned out to be a great experience, because I feel like making this dance and allow myself to be with the dancer and understand them is actually a very therapeutic and very anti-spectacle for me. So you cannot change what people think about your work, but you can change how you approach it. So your work could be a spectacle for other people, but your work could be very big, could be very meaningful to you. So same, social media, your social media account could be a spectacle for other people, but your social media could also be very something meaningful to you. It's like a performance thing that, there's different aspects of it that we have to navigate. And so, I just want people to live with that social media platform is not an evil thing. I mean, people use it for some egoistic and selfish purpose, but if you approach this the right way, you can learn a lot about yourself and your work.
So as we wrap up, we have our Flash 4 portion. So this is where we ask all our guests to answer 4 questions in a flash. Are you ready?
Yes.
Flash 4.
Okay, question 1. If you had to recommend a resource to our audience, what would it be?
I think I would recommend Anne Bogart writing. Anne Bogart writing, especially this book called A Director Prepare. I think it's very fascinating on her view on making art, and actually all her book is great. It's like they offer very deep and insightful to art making, and I use some of it for my research on the spectacle too. So definitely Anne Bogart. Her name spelled Anne and Bogart.
Thanks, Dad. Question 2. What was the first dance you saw?
It was back at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi dance concert. I can't remember, but it's like a ballet piece in the dance concert. That was like my first dance experience, which made me want to dance. Yes.
Oh, lovely. Question 3. Do you think social media has a positive influence on the dance world? Yes or no?
I think we already know through podcast that it could be both.
Great. Question 4. What is your favorite social media platform?
Instagram for me, because I'm a visual artist.
Well, thank you again, Dat, so much for your time and sharing your thoughts with our audience. I feel like we had such a deep conversation when we were able to really pick apart a lot of information about spectacle in relation to social media. But before we leave, could you please share with our listeners how they can stay connected with you? So your social media handles, your website, and the like.
Yes, so my website is MotionVivid.com. And all my social media handle is MotionVivid. So yeah, I make it a point to make all these handle consistent. So if you look MotionVivid on Google, it should pop up all of them. Website, Vimeo, Instagram.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dat.
Yes, thank you so much, Marcia, for this lovely conversation.
Thanks for taking your time to tune into Dance Behind the Screen, a bi-monthly interview series where we go behind the screen to question process, product, and social media. Be sure to follow us on social media at KNOW Box Dance. See you next time, and don't forget to say no to the box.